Hello, everybody. It's kind of cloudy outside today. Hope everybody's having a good day. Excuse me. Um, Woke up with a sore throat, so depends on how long I can handle. Okay. I guess people online keep posting, you know, though I'm talking about the Megan people keep posting how great Trump is, but they don't realize what's going on. They don't see what the rest of them see. Maybe it's because they don't want to. Maybe because they believe in that man so much that, they're willing to look over all the facts that have come out. You know, I understand that they want to believe in somebody, but this man has the way he's been doing the job, and he doesn't realize presidency is not a ongoing thing. 2 terms and that's it. And it's just a job. It's not like, any old person can do it, and I don't think he should have been allowed to do it because he's, one, not a politician. And now they want to put a ban. Now people who follow him are trying to put people that have lived here either most of their lives or became citizens, and they're trying to keep them out of the Congress. Well, you know what? That's not right. If that's the case, then ban foreign females from being the first lady, which is what I can't even pronounce her name, which is what his wife is. She was born in a different country. True, she's a citizen now. She probably didn't have to go through what most people have to go through to become citizens of this country, but she is a citizen. But, she was born in a foreign country, and I don't know why he's out to get all the, immigrants. But obviously he is. He forgets, his mom was, everybody that is here that is not full-blooded Native American, or a little bit, have come from foreign countries, their ancestors. I don't know what the big deal is about people coming in here and becoming, most of the reason why these immigrants that he's, and it's mainly Mexicans if you notice. If you're Hispanic and you were born like in Mexico and stuff like that, they're after them. Well, like in the southern states, and I'm talking Texas and Arizona and New Mexico and California, there were Mexicans here before there were any sign of a white person. Yeah, I'm white, but I also acknowledge the fact that, I have, European blood. You know, there's talk that I also have gypsy blood, but that that still doesn't make me a native. In the first place, when, and I'm not saying my ancestors because they basically stayed in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New York. My ancestors never owned slaves that I know of. My ancestors never treated people wrong. I mean, my grandfather didn't want my mother to marry Italian because, he had something against Italians, which, that was then. That was in the old days. Now things are different. People need to start hating on people. This hate is gonna drive people mad. Separating the MAGA people are separating, you know, Democrats and Republicans have always had their thing, and it hasn't always been the way it is now, because back 150 years ago or so, the Republicans were Democrat and the Democrats were Republicans. So, I'm not saying that all Democrats are good, because they're not. It's the individual. It's not the party. It's not your religion. Just like, yeah, there's been a lot of cases where priests have done things to young people, and I'm not saying that that doesn't exist, because it does. It never happened to me. It never happened to my brothers. But, you know, it's not the religion that caused that. It's the individual that had that thing in their head. No religion is a cause of violent crime. But there's people out there putting down Catholics and saying Christianity is the true religion. We don't know that. Until we meet God, we don't know if Christianity is the true religion or if Catholic is, or Judaism. The Jewish religion has been around pretty long too. But you got people going around here going against. And don't think Trump is a choir boy, because he's not. I mean, he's done things that we haven't even found out about. But why would you be friends with, and this is my opinion, okay? We know he was friends with Jeffrey Epstein, come on. He's been pictured with him several times before that man was arrested. So, knowing, and I know he had to known, and I still believe he participated in the same thing, but, he squeezed his way out of a conviction is what he did. If he didn't do anything and he knew it was happening, why did he allow it? Why didn't he step up and go to the authorities right away? Because that was his friend and a fellow billionaire. I mean, this man, just like his wife. His wife was there when all this stuff was happening. Doesn't mean she took part, but hello, you're there. You see it happening. I know you see it happening. You would see signs. And you're standing there watching these men do this to these minors and stuff like that, and you're not saying nothing to the authorities about it. That man would have been in jail a lot sooner than he was if she would have spoke up. And I don't think she really personally took part. She was going back from Jeffrey Stein to Trump to Jeffrey Stein, and then she decided on staying with Trump, I guess. And then they got married. But hey, love comes when love comes, I guess. I'm not saying she doesn't love the president. Maybe, if she does, she does. If she doesn't, she doesn't. That's not my business. I'm not going to put into myself like that, But I do know that you're standing there in somebody's house that's violating minors, and you're going to sit there and let them do it because you're too, busy with having relations with somebody else, or you just don't want to pay attention. And then to get out there years after and say she never knew him, when there's pictures of her at his house with him and Trump. So there's that. Okay, that doesn't mean neither one of them are guilty. But from what I've seen, Trump is guilty as Epstein is. And I believe the victims before I believe, them. With Michael Jackson, it was a different situation. I don't believe none of that happened. I think the parents put the kids up to it so they could get money. Because, Michael Jackson was pretty rich. People who don't want to work do anything for money. Even bring out lies like that, get their kids to do that. And I don't blame the kids. I blame the parents. But that's a different situation. He's passed and that's over and done with. But, you know, and I'm not saying anything about Epstein. He was guilty. He was convicted. He was sentenced, but he died in prison. And that to me is suspicious because there was no indication he was a sick man, except up here. So that makes me think somebody got a hold of him. And believe me, guards can make it look like an accident. It's happened before. Check the news. Happened to my nephew, and my nephew didn't do anything except go nuts a little bit because he got into a fight with his mother, and he was a 5150 to begin with. He had problems. I'm not sure if he was totally 5150, but he did have mental issues, and he didn't deserve that. He didn't hurt a child. He was upset about something, and they got into an argument, and it got physical. Well, the cops were supposed to take him to the mental part of the hospital, and they took him to jail, and instead. So that's a little. She's my sister-in-law still. She's very. Every time the anniversary of his death comes around, his birthday, she gets to the point where she's unconsolable. But that's not what I'm talking. I'm talking about how can anybody sit there and watch these men go back and forth, and the former president, Prince Andrew, is guilty as. I'm waiting for them to put him in their prison. But with England is slap on the wrist for most of the criminals. Very few of them get sentenced to life. And I don't know about the death penalty there, but I'm sure somebody from England would be able to tell me. But he hasn't been arrested yet. He had his title taken from him because his brother took his title. But like I said, I can't understand how somebody can sit there and know what these men are doing and let it happen. I'm the type of person, if I'm in somebody's house but I see something like that, believe me, the next step, go outside, take my phone, call the cops, and get them arrested for it. Kids should not have to deal with that. Their minds are so young, and even at, there's some that were 11, 12, 15. Their minds are not developed enough to agree to a consensual relationship like that. So, to me, if you do that, you do that. 17 is a little more, even though it's still against law in some states. It boggles my mind that somebody can sit there in somebody's home and see that person take a 12, 11, a 15-year-old to the room, and you can hear them kids screaming they don't want to do it. It's time for us to step up. President, I think he's still just as guilty as Epstein. I'll always believe that. That's why that list is not coming out. He can't get his name off of it. And if that list completely comes out, his name's on there. And there's names on there that probably didn't participate, but that were there. So shame on you guys for that were there and allowed that to happen. And kudos to the person that actually turned Epstein in. You know, we got to protect kids, and we got to protect people from being violated like that, especially children. Come on. You tell me 11-year-old has the knowledge to be able to handle a sexual relationship, even if it's brief? No. I just, like I said, it boggles the mind, you know. So, give thoughts. Thanks for watching.